Welcome to this next in our series of conversations. On November 5th, His Excellency Ambassador Jonathan Fried will leave us for his new posting as Ambassador to the World Trade Organization in Switzerland. He will have been with us for 4 years. And joining me today in this conversation is Eric de Groot, member of our Board of Governors, immediate past president of our chamber. So there's two people here that have had a great deal of interaction with our ambassador, and it makes this conversation, I think, pretty meaningful for the members of our chamber and all other viewers. Ambassador, welcome to Conversations.
Thank you, Wilf.
Tell us, please, I know it sounds like a simple question, but what were your kind of first impressions when you arrived in Tokyo?
Well, it was the summer of 2008. It was not at all my first visit to Tokyo. Throughout my career, I've had many, many visits and have always enjoyed coming here. Arriving in Japan, one is reminded of the popular conception that Japan is the Galapagos, that it's a foreign society to everyone, that it's isolated and that it's different. And yet, arriving in Japan to live, one very quickly discovers quite the opposite, that Japan is very welcoming, very open to the rest of the world, and absorbs and makes better everything the world has to offer. Tokyo is clearly one of the world's great cities, and it reverberates throughout the country. So in terms of first impressions, I do recall feeling very, very welcome, very warmly. In addition, I should say that in light of my past career, I arrived to re-engage with many friends, both Japanese and from other countries. And the traditional Japanese graciousness and politeness in being so welcoming touched me on a very human scale as well.
And it's a very busy place, isn't it? You'd hardly call it relaxing.
Well, any big city, and this is a metropolitan area, the world's largest city, of course, has a certain intensity to it, and yet Japan is measured in that regard. It's clean, it's quiet, it's with green space, and probably thus underrated elsewhere in the world.
Mr. Ambassador, if you could point to 3 events or happenings that took place during your tenure that were of significant importance to the Canada-Japan relationship, what would those be?
Maybe take half a step back, because I've often described our relationship as resting on 3 pillars. A good stool requires 3 legs to stand on. We have a long-standing and very rich economic relationship, and in that field, clearly the major development during my time here has been the agreement to launch free trade or economic partnership negotiations. A second pillar is the political relationship, and by political I mean our common interests in security, in peace, in a stable Pacific region, and a stable globe resting on the rule of law. Here too, Canada and Japan have for a long time cooperated very closely in the United Nations on peacekeeping and so on. And over the last 4 years, I'm proud to say that the level of engagement has risen to a much closer level. We now have, at the deputy minister or vice ministerial level, something that's called in bureaucratic parlance a 2+2 forum, and that means the Deputy Minister of Defense and of Foreign Affairs of Canada meeting regularly with their counterparts in Japan, not just to talk about Japan and Canada together, but our common interests in maintaining stability in the Asia-Pacific
And this was
region.
initiated in the last 4 years?
Yes, this was something that was on my agenda on arrival, and I think our efforts at the embassy, in support of the Prime Minister and the government's objectives, led to the crystallization, the signing, and agreement to create this forum and the first meeting of that forum. Third pillar may be the most important, and you can summarize it by saying it's the people-to-people connections that we enjoy from grassroots community level and student exchanges through sister cities, through the private sector, as you folks so ably represent in the Chamber of Commerce in Japan. And on the people-to-people side, I'll double count a bit if you want. 3 events, it's 4 because there are 2 in this area. One a very high note, one a very low note. And the high note that engaged all of our people in both countries was the historic visit of Their Majesties, the Emperor and Empress, to Canada. In 2009, the Emperor had not been since 1953, when he was still Crown Prince. And having had the privilege of accompanying Their Majesties, the warmth, the engagement generated not just among Japanese Canadians, but among all Canadians on our side of the ocean, and the active interest and engagement of people here in Japan in monitoring and watching that visit, which was 11 days, was remarkable. Low point, but tremendously important on a people-to-people basis, was all of us living through the events of March 11th and its aftermath. I'm very proud of the fact that the Embassy and the Government of Canada was engaged from the outset, first and foremost, to ensure that the lives and safety of Canadians were looked after, and secondly, to do everything we could in kind, in material terms, and of course back in Canada through cash support and donations to help the people of Japan through the initial recovery stage, including search and rescue, right through to today and the continuing efforts for reconstruction. So that's 4 and 3.
Mr. Ambassador, this may be a kind of a personal question, but was there anything that you wished to achieve that you weren't able to achieve, or something that you got into train but you hadn't accomplished yet? Is there any kind of loose ends?
You know, the normal tenure of a Canadian ambassador in a foreign assignment is 4 years in developed countries. So I knew on arrival I was likely to be here for 48 months. And I also knew that there are 47 prefectures in Japan. And I thought that that provided a nice goal, which was to set foot in each and every prefecture of Japan. And I was on track until March 11th. Since that time, I've been back on behalf of the Embassy and the people of Canada to Tohoku 12 times. So I've only managed to see 38 of the 47 prefectures. On the other hand, I'm very proud of the fact that during my time, we have managed to knit together so many local community associations and sister city representatives into something we now call a Canada Network, which is across Japan, people who have a strong feeling about Canada, who want to support stronger relations, who connect now electronically, periodically, face-to-face, who can carry a message and who can respond and engage when we have something to offer, culturally or in education.
Ambassador, you mentioned in your earlier answer the economic partnership agreement negotiations which are underway. I wonder if you'd just like to expand on that a bit and tell us your views on the state of the Canada-Japan trade relationship now and its potential going forward.
I guess I would assess the Canada-Japan trade and investment relationship as a positive one with more potential. Japan has always been a very important partner for Canada in most all sectors. There's a long history of healthy and stable trading relationships, whether it's commodities, early Japanese investment in the Canadian energy sector, right through to high technology, where Canada has always had a bit of a niche in ICT, for example. That success has enabled us pretty well to maintain market share and in some places build on it. And yet it's an open invitation to do even more. So I wouldn't say that it's passive. I wouldn't say that it's below potential. I'd put it as the cup being half full. It's good, it's positive. Canadian firms and Japanese firms alike are benefiting in terms of both the acquisition of knowledge and in profitability. but it clearly says there's that much more that can be done. Government's role is to say, here is the table we have set, here is the playing field that we believe is level, but it's up to the private sector to walk in and take advantage of it, and that's where an organization like the CCCJ has such a key role to play, together with your counterpart organizations in Canada, in highlighting those opportunities.
Ambassador, thanks very much for joining us on this conversation. This is your opportunity now. I hope that you'll take it to say goodbye to a wider audience, sayonara, and that means see you soon kind of thing in a long sense. So please take this minute and share that with our members and the viewers.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I think it's both with a sense of gratitude and honest humility that I leave Japan. What I described in the course of our conversation as the achievements are really achievements of the community, of a remarkable team at the embassy, our consulate, and our trade offices, the engagement of the Canadian business community and those who connect to Canada more generally. And thus, it's not something that belongs to my tenure as much as to this community that we share. What one takes from Japan with gratitude, I think, is some of the fundamental strengths that Japan has to share with the world. It almost goes back to the beginning of our conversation, and we talked about Japan taking what the world has to offer and making it better. And one learns in Japan the value of listening, the value of learning and reflecting on what others are doing, and to think about what can be done better. It's also a lesson in respect for others and their achievements, in respect for community, and ultimately respect for the environment and the planet on which we live, because of the premium and the value placed by Japan and its people on peace and on harmony. And I think we Canadians have much to take inspiration and to learn from that approach. That's not foreign at all. In fact, I think those values are very much shared. It's certainly felt even more deeply after the privilege of living here for a while. So as I say, gratitude and humility.
Ambassador, sayonara.
Sayonara.